One of the hardest parts of healing that nobody actually prepares you for, it's the quiet part. It's when you look up and you realize that you have outgrown the people and the places that served a purpose in your life. I didn't storm out. I didn't cry. I didn't slam any doors. I just stopped going back to the places and to the people that made me feel small, that made me feel unworthy, that made me feel like I wasn't important or that I wasn't cared for. So this process, it actually just didn't happen overnight. It was something that took a very long time and it was very slow for me. It was a phone call that I decided that I did not want to return anymore. It was a conversation that I was just too exhausted and I just didn't want to keep having that same conversation with the same people that didn't hear actually what I was saying. It was the gut feeling that I actually stopped ignoring things like, well, you hear something they say negative about you and they say they don't say it, but you get a recording that they did say it and they still deny it, that kind of stuff. As I actually started healing, I started knowing how much energy and time went into every single body else except me. And that became exhausting too, to know that I had been feeding everybody else energy and love and compassion and truthfully not getting anything like that in return. I've always been a strong person. I've always been a strong one. I've always been strong-willed. I've always been loyal to people. I've been the listener, the fixer. I've been the one person that probably, if you really needed my help and I could help you, I would never say no. But I also became the person that was so tired, just so tired, so exhausted, tired of being there for people who were truly never there for me. I was tired of shrinking who I was, who my personality was, to be able to stay included. I was tired of abandoning who I truly was to be included in a family circle or a friend group. At first, when I started doing this, I felt really guilty. Like I was betraying everybody. I was betraying everybody who thought that they knew me best. But eventually I realized that they didn't actually know me at all. They only knew a version of me, and I truly didn't know me. So they knew the version of me that I performed for them. It was the version I built for everybody else so I could survive in their environments. So when I stopped showing up for people the same way that I used to, a lot of people pulled back. Some of them stopped calling. Some of them stopped talking to me. Some of them made me out to be a villain in their story, all because I chose myself for the very first time. And honestly, I let them fucking do it because I got to a point I was really just exhausted and I was tired of being misunderstood. And I never wanted to abandon my true self ever again. It was so lonely for a while, like so lonely. And the quietness, I thought it was probably going to drive me mad because I had thrived and survived in chaos my whole life. And I had no idea how to survive in the quietness. Everything, when my brain got quiet, my mind got quiet, and I was just relaxing, I literally always felt like I had to be doing something. But in the time of the quietness and the calmness, I was able to find a lot of clarity. And during that clarity, those quiet moments, I was able to start creating a life that was my life. It was something that I created, not because anybody else really had any influence on it, but it was a life that I learned to enjoy, got to learn to become myself again, because it was time for me at that point to discover who I truly was. And throughout that discovery, I had to make peace with the silence and I had to make peace with my past. And I had to forgive myself. And through the forgiving of myself, I had to forgive myself for things and things and for people that I allowed to treat me badly, because sometimes when we're in situations in our life, we don't always have all the correct answers. And we make the best decision that we can based on what we know knowledge wise. And there are so many things in my life that I didn't know, but I made the best decision I could based on what I did know. And some of them didn't turn out so great. So when they didn't turn out so great, I beat myself up about it a lot. But I had to forgive myself for that. And then I also had to learn to forgive other people for what they didn't do, or saying that they love me, but they didn't have the capacity to love, or they didn't know how to love. So I had to be able to forgive them. And the forgiveness wasn't for them. The forgiveness was for me allowing behaviors and people in my life that was no longer serving any type of positive purpose. So after I was able to make peace with all of that, I was able to make space for people who, for the first time, they got to experience who I really was. Not just like the convenience of a version that I thought I had to be, but who I truly was. A person that loved life, that loved to laugh, that enjoyed a nice glass of wine, that loved her husband unconditionally, that wasn't in a constant state of fight and flight all the time. A woman that could laugh with her kids and that can go to the water park and float down the lazy river without having a major panic attack. And over all that time, I gave space to people that could be authentically get to know me. And the people that I've come encounter with, they love me and I love them. And eventually I stopped reaching back for the older people or the people that I once had in my life. I stopped reaching back to them. And it wasn't out of spite and it wasn't out of anger. It was because I truthfully wanted to reach forward. I wanted to move forward in my life. Disconnecting from everyone I had ever known, it wasn't about cutting people off. It wasn't about being disrespectful to them or not loving them. It wasn't about that. It was about coming home back to the person that I was meant to be, that I had lost. It was coming back to the real authentic version of myself. Now, if right now you are questioning everything, maybe you're feeling alone, I want you to know that you're not lost. You're just really trying to become the best version of yourself. And to the people who are meant to be with you, the real you, they're going to meet you where you're headed, and that is going to be forward.